Isaiah Brooks had made a promise to his daughter that no matter how tight things got, Christmas would always feel like magic. So on that cold December evening, he brought 7-year-old Maya to Wonderland Park, the sprawling amusement center on the edge of Portland that transformed into a winter fantasy every holiday season. The entrance fee had cost him a full day's wages from his construction job, but watching Maya's dark eyes grow wide at the towering Christmas tree made every dollar worth it. Her rich brown skin glowed under the twinkling lights as she squeezed his hand tighter. He had no way of knowing that this night would change everything. The park pulsed with life. Thousands of families moved through the decorated pathways, their laughter mixing with Christmas carols. Isaiah held Maya's mittened hand as they navigated through the crowd, past vendors selling hot cocoa, past the spinning teacups wrapped in twinkling lights, past long lines snaking toward Santa's workshop. Maya tugged him toward the carousel, her box braids swinging with each excited step. They were halfway there when Isaiah felt something collide with his leg. He looked down to find a little girl, maybe 5 or 6, clutching his jeans with both fists. Her face was streaked with tears, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She wore an expensive-looking white coat with fur trim, and her dark coils were wild around her deep brown face. She looked up at Isaiah with enormous eyes filled with absolute terror. "Hey, hey," Isaiah said, crouching down immediately. The girl only cried harder, burying her face against his knee. Isaiah felt his heart clench. He knew that kind of fear, the primal panic of a child separated from their parent. Maya knelt beside him, her expression serious beyond her years. "It's all right," she said softly. "My daddy's really nice. He'll help you find your mommy." The girl lifted her head slightly, her sobs quieting to hiccups. She looked at Maya, at this other child who seemed so calm, and something in her small body relaxed just a fraction. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Isaiah asked gently. "Aria," the girl managed between shuddering breaths. "That's a beautiful name. I'm Isaiah, and this is my daughter Maya. Can you tell me what your mommy looks like?" But Aria's face crumpled again. "I don't know where she went. There were so many people, and then she was gone, and I couldn't find her." Okay, Isaiah said, his voice steady, even as his mind raced. He scanned the crowd, looking for anyone who seemed to be searching frantically for a child. The sea of faces was overwhelming. Finding one specific person in this chaos would be nearly impossible. "Let's go to the security station," he decided. "They'll be able to help us find your mom." Aria immediately reached for his hand. The gesture was automatic, trusting, and it made something ache deep in Isaiah's chest. He took her small fingers in his, noting how cold they were despite her expensive coat. With Maya holding his other hand, he began making his way toward the main security office. The journey was slow. The crowd seemed to grow thicker with every step, bodies pressing in from all sides. Aria whimpered each time someone jostled past them. Isaiah lifted her onto his hip without thinking, the way he'd carried Maya through countless crowds, and she immediately wrapped her arms around his neck. "We're almost there," he told her softly. "You're being so brave, Aria." The security station was designed to look like a gingerbread house, complete with candy cane columns. But the cheerful exterior couldn't mask the tension inside. A line of anxious parents stretched out the door, each clutching photos on their phones, each wearing the same expression of barely contained panic. Inside, 2 exhausted security guards were fielding questions from multiple directions. Radios crackled with updates. A whiteboard listed descriptions of 6 different lost children. "Sir, we're doing our best," one guard was saying to a father who looked ready to tear the building apart. "We've got teams searching every section." Isaiah waited his turn, bouncing Aria gently. When he finally reached the counter, a young woman with a Santa hat looked up at him with tired eyes. "Lost child?" she asked. "Found, actually," Isaiah said. "Her name is Aria. She got separated from her mother somewhere in the park." The guard's expression softened. Aria, let me check our list. She scanned her computer screen, frowning. We don't have a missing child report yet for an Aria. What does Mom look like, honey? Aria shook her head against Isaiah's shoulder, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. She's pretty shaken up, Isaiah explained. She hasn't been able to tell me much. The guard sighed. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. We're completely overwhelmed tonight. Your best bet might be to stay in the main areas where parents typically look. The carousel, the big tree, the merry-go-round. If you can keep her calm and visible in those spots, there's a good chance Mom will find you. It wasn't the answer Isaiah had hoped for, but he understood. He thanked the guard and stepped back outside. Daddy, Maya said, tugging his sleeve. Maybe we should go to the merry-go-round. Aria might feel better if she can watch the horses, and maybe her mommy will come there looking. Isaiah looked at his daughter, at her earnest face and kind heart, and felt a swell of pride. That's a wonderful idea, sweetheart. The merry-go-round stood at the heart of the park, its antique horses gleaming under thousands of tiny white lights. A crowd had gathered to watch, parents lifting children onto shoulders, couples holding hands as gentle music played. Isaiah found a spot near the entrance where they could see and be seen, positioning them beneath a large candy cane arch. He lowered Aria to the ground, keeping one hand on her shoulder. Your mommy might come here, looking for you, he explained. So we're going to stay right here where she can find us easily, okay? Aria nodded, her tears finally beginning to dry. Maya stood beside her, pointing out the different horses, the white one with roses in its mane, the black one with golden hooves, the dappled gray with ribbons streaming from its bridle. Aria began asking questions, her voice growing steadier. After a while, Isaiah lifted Aria onto his shoulders so she could see better. The little girl's hands gripped his hair gently as she gazed at the spinning lights, and for a moment she seemed to forget her fear entirely. Somewhere across the park, a mother was losing her mind. Serena Vale had built $1 billion empire on her ability to stay calm under pressure. She had negotiated hostile takeovers without breaking a sweat, faced down boardrooms full of people who wanted to see her fail, rebuilt her company from near bankruptcy after her husband's death left her with nothing but debt and a 6-month-old daughter. But none of that mattered now. None of her money, her power, her carefully cultivated composure meant anything because her daughter was missing. She had turned away for 30 seconds to answer an urgent call from her assistant about a last-minute change to tomorrow's charity gala. When she looked back, Aria was gone. Serena searched everywhere. She pushed through families, ignored irritated looks, called Aria's name until her voice went hoarse. Her security team, led by Nolan Graves and another operative, fanned out across the park, communicating through earpieces. But the updates kept coming back the same. No sign of her. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Serena's legs were shaking, her designer heels completely inappropriate for this frantic searching. Her perfectly styled locks had come loose from their pins, strands falling across her deep brown face as she ran. Every child she spotted made her heart stop, and every time it wasn't Aria, she died a little more inside. The Christmas lights that had seemed so magical an hour ago now felt like a cruel joke. She thought about every moment she'd been too busy to play with Aria, every bedtime story she'd delegated to the nanny, every promise she'd broken because work came first. If something happened to her daughter, she would never forgive herself. When the call finally came through her earpiece, "Ma'am, we may have found her. Someone matching Aria's description is near the merry-go-round." Serena was already running. She burst through the crowd like a woman possessed. The merry-go-round came into view, and then she saw them. A man, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a worn canvas jacket. He had Aria on his shoulders, her small hands gripping his short-cropped hair, and he was pointing up at something. Aria was smiling while Serena had been dying of fear. This stranger had her daughter on his shoulders, like he had every right to touch her child. Something snapped inside Serena. Every news story she'd ever read about child abductions, every warning about predators, every nightmare she'd had since becoming a mother, it all crashed together into a single blinding wave of rage and terror. She didn't think. She just acted. "Get away from her!" Serena screamed, launching herself at the man. She grabbed Aria, yanking her off his shoulders with enough force to make the child cry out. "Don't you touch her! Don't you ever touch my daughter!" The man stumbled backward, his hands raised in surrender. He was saying something, but Serena couldn't hear him over the roaring in her ears. Aria was crying now, and Serena clutched her so tight she could feel the rapid flutter of her daughter's heartbeat. A crowd was forming. People with their phones out, security guards pushing through, voices overlapping in confusion. Serena saw the man's daughter, a little girl about Aria's age with neat box braids, looking up at her with wide, frightened eyes. Some distant part of her brain registered that this didn't look right, but she couldn't think past the animal need to protect her child. "Ma'am, please calm down," a security guard was saying. "Sir, can you explain what's happening?" "I was helping her," the man said, his voice remarkably steady. "She was lost. We were waiting here for her mother to find her." "Liar," Serena spat. "You had her on your shoulders." "I was showing her the lights. She was scared, and I was trying to distract her while we waited for you." "Mommy, stop!" Aria's voice cut through the noise. "Mommy, stop it. He helped me. He's nice. He and Maya helped me find you." Serena went completely still. She looked down at her daughter, at Aria's tear-stained face, at the way she was reaching toward the stranger's little girl with one hand. "What?" Serena whispered. "I got lost," Aria said, her voice trembling. "And I was so scared, Mommy. And then I found Isaiah and Maya, and they helped me. They took me to the security place, and then we came here so you could find me. Isaiah said you'd probably come here looking. He saved me, Mommy." The world shifted beneath Serena's feet. She looked at the man, Isaiah, and saw him clearly for the first time. The kindness in his dark eyes, the protective arm around his own daughter, the complete absence of threat in his posture. He wasn't a predator. He was a father who had done exactly what she would have wanted any decent person to do, and she had just attacked him in front of hundreds of people. The shame hit her like a physical blow. She opened her mouth to apologize, but the words wouldn't come. Her whole body was shaking, the adrenaline crash combining with horror. "I'm sorry," she finally managed. "I'm so sorry, I thought—" "It's okay," Isaiah said, though his face was tense and his daughter was pressed against his leg, clearly frightened. "You were scared. I understand." But Serena couldn't accept his grace. Not when she could still feel the echo of her own. Accusations. Not when she could see curious phones still pointed in her direction. She pulled Aria closer, mumbled another apology, and retreated into the crowd. Her security team flanked her immediately as she made her way back toward the VIP section. She didn't look back. If she had, she would have seen Isaiah watching her go, his expression not angry, but sad. 15 minutes later, Serena sat in the private lounge reserved for the park's most generous donors, Aria curled in her lap. Her hands had finally stopped shaking, but the guilt had only grown stronger. She kept replaying the scene, the accusations she'd hurled, the fear in that little girl's eyes. She had to make it right. "Nolan," she said to the head of her security team. "Find him." Nolan hesitated. "Ma'am, are you sure that's wise? After what happened?" "I accused an innocent man of being a predator in front of hundreds of people," Serena cut him off. "I need to apologize properly. Find him." 20 minutes later, Isaiah and Maya stood at the entrance to the VIP lounge, looking profoundly uncomfortable. Isaiah had cleaned up slightly, but there was no hiding the worn edges of his clothes or the weariness in his eyes. He looked like a man who had wandered into the wrong world entirely. Serena rose to meet them, Aria sliding off her lap to stand beside her. The massive Christmas tree behind them cast everything in warm, golden glow. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you after the way I behaved." "You were scared," Isaiah said. "Any parent would be." "That doesn't excuse what I did." Serena took a deep breath. "I accused you of something terrible. In public, in front of your daughter, in front of hundreds of strangers with their phones out. There's no excuse." "I appreciate the apology," Isaiah said carefully. "But honestly, we're fine. You don't owe us anything else." "Yes, I do." Serena glanced down at Aria, who was staring at Maya with undisguised longing. "Aria hasn't stopped talking about your daughter. Apparently, Maya was very kind to her when she was scared." Maya, who had been hiding behind her father, peered out shyly. "Aria was really scared," she said simply. "I didn't want her to be scared anymore." Serena felt something shift in her chest. She looked at this child in her second-hand coat and carefully braided hair, and she saw a kindness that had nothing to do with money or status. "That was very sweet of you," Serena said softly. "Daddy says we should always help people when they're scared," Maya added solemnly. "Because someone might help us someday when we're scared too." Serena's eyes moved to Isaiah. He looked embarrassed, a slight flush darkening his cheeks. But he didn't contradict her. He just stood there, one hand on Maya's shoulder, radiating a quiet dignity that Serena found unexpectedly moving. "Your father sounds like a very wise man," she said. "He's the best daddy in the whole world," Maya said with absolute certainty. Aria tugged on Serena's hand. "Mommy, can Maya come play with me? Please?" Serena hesitated. She had intended to apologize and let them go. But Aria's face was so hopeful, more animated than Serena had seen her in months. "Of course," she heard herself say. The next hour unfolded in ways Serena hadn't anticipated. She had expected awkwardness, two worlds colliding uncomfortably. Instead, she found herself watching Aria and Maya play together in the VIP area's private playground, while Isaiah sat across from her at a table laden with refreshments he barely touched. The girls had become instant friends, bonding over shared games and whispered secrets, their laughter ringing out like bells. Serena offered him compensation for his help, a check, a gift card, whatever he wanted. He refused politely but firmly, and something in his expression told her not to push. It wasn't just pride, it was something deeper, a sense of self that didn't depend on external validation. In Serena's world, everyone had a price. Isaiah seemed to exist outside that calculus entirely, and she found that both confusing and refreshing. "Why did you help her?" Serena found herself asking. "Aria, I mean. You could have just taken her to security and left her there." Isaiah considered the question. "Because she was scared," he said finally. "And because I'd want someone to do the same for Maya if she ever got lost." "Most people would have walked away." "I'm not most people." Serena studied him, this construction worker with his calloused hands and gentle eyes, and his daughter who called him the best daddy in the whole world, with absolute conviction. He was real in a way that felt almost foreign to her now. "No," she said quietly. "You're not." The evening continued. Serena had been scheduled to attend a charity fundraiser in the park's Grand Pavilion, a gathering of Portland's elite where donations were measured in hundreds of thousands. She hadn't planned to bring guests, but when the time came to leave the lounge, she found herself extending an invitation. "It's nothing too formal," she said, which wasn't entirely true. "Just a gathering with some food and entertainment. The girls seemed to be having such a wonderful time together." Isaiah looked uncertain. "I don't think we'd really fit in at something like that." "You'd be my guests. That's all that matters." He glanced at Maya, who was whispering with Aria about something that had them both giggling. The look on his face, the love, the desire to give his daughter every good thing even when he had so little, made Serena's heart ache. "Okay," he said finally, "but just for a little while." The charity event was everything Serena had said it wasn't. Elaborate, exclusive, filled with people who measured worth in net worth. Isaiah felt the stares the moment he walked through the entrance. His canvas jacket and work boots stood out among designer gowns and Italian leather. He saw raised eyebrows, whispered comments, quick assessments that found him lacking. But Serena stayed at his side, not hovering, just present. A quiet declaration that he belonged there because she said he did. The evening progressed with speeches and silent auctions and mingling. Isaiah tried to stay out of the way, keeping Maya close, watching Aria charm every adult who bent down to speak with her. Then the crowd shifted, bodies pressing together, and Aria suddenly found herself separated from the adults. A large man backed into her without noticing, sending her stumbling. Isaiah moved without thinking. One moment he was standing beside an ice sculpture, and the next he was across the room, scooping Aria up before she could fall. She clung to him instinctively. "You're okay," he told her. "I've got you." Serena had seen the whole thing. She'd been mid-conversation when she caught the movement from the corner of her eye. The stumble, the reach, and then Isaiah appearing to catch her daughter. The speed of his reaction, the surety of his movements, the way Aria relaxed immediately in his arms, all of it spoke of instincts honed by devoted fatherhood. She extracted herself from the conversation and made her way to his side. "Thank you," Serena said, and this time the words carried much more than simple politeness. "Just looking out for her," he replied. "Same as I'd want someone to do for Maya." "I could use some air," she said impulsively. "There's a garden behind the pavilion. Would you join me?" The garden was an oasis of quiet. String lights wove through bare branches. Aria and Maya ran ahead, playing some game that involved chasing each other and dissolving into laughter every few seconds. "I never thanked you properly," Serena said, sitting down on a bench. "Not just for tonight, for taking care of Aria when she was lost. You already thanked me. I accused you of kidnapping, and then—" Not quite the same. Isaiah almost smiled. They watched their daughters play in silence for a moment. "Can I ask something personal?" she said. "Maya's mother?" A shadow passed over Isaiah's features. "She passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. It was right around Christmas when it happened." He paused, watching Maya spin in circles with Aria. "That's why I try so hard to make the holidays special. I don't want Maya associating this time only with losing her mom. I want her to have happy memories too." Serena thought about her own loss. "Aria's father died when she was 6 months old," she heard herself saying. "Heart attack at 34. Completely unexpected. I barely remember the first year after. Running a company, raising a baby, trying not to fall apart. You're still here. That counts for something. I'm a successful businesswoman, not always sure I'm a good mother. You panicked when you thought Aria was in danger. That's not bad parenting. I lost control. That's someone who loves her daughter more than anything." Isaiah paused. "My wife used to say being broken doesn't mean you're weak. Just means you've been through something hard." Serena looked at him, this stranger with more insight into her heart than people she'd known for years. The girls came running back then, breathless and giggling. The moment passed, but something had shifted. Later, Serena overheard a conversation near the coat check. An event organizer approached Isaiah about construction work, affordable housing, community centers. "I appreciate the offer, but I can't take it. We pay very well." "It's not about money. The timeline means working through Christmas. I promised my daughter I'd be there with her. Surely one holiday. I told my daughter Christmas, Daddy will always be there. Even if we're broke, I'll be there. I don't break promises to her." Serena stood frozen. She thought about Christmases she'd missed or half attended, mentally composing emails while Aria opened presents. She thought about the terror on Aria's face when lost. Was that because Serena had given her reasons to doubt her mother would always be there? She found Isaiah near the exit, helping Maya into her thin coat. "Wait," Serena said. "Aria's school has a winter program, enrichment activities, field trips. Aria wants Maya to attend with her. I'd like to sponsor her enrollment." The warmth drained from Isaiah's face. "You want to pay for my daughter's school?" "It's gratitude, not charity." Feels like charity. "Isaiah, you think because I can't afford fancy schools I'm failing Maya?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" They faced each other, suddenly distant. Serena saw his pride, his defensiveness, the fear of every struggling parent, the terror of being seen as not enough. "Aria made her first real friend tonight," Serena said carefully. "My daughter is lonely. Kids at her school perform friendship instead of feeling it. This isn't about saving Maya. It's about helping Aria." "Then say that. Don't dress it up." "Fine. I'm asking for help. Aria needs a friend. Will you consider it?" Before he could respond, two small bodies hurtled between them. Aria had her arms around Maya's neck, both giggling. "Are you fighting?" Aria asked worriedly. "No, sweetheart." Maya tugged Isaiah's sleeve. "Daddy, can I go to Aria's school? She says they have horses." Isaiah looked at his daughter's hopeful face, then at Aria, watching with equal intensity. Two girls who found each other in a crowd of thousands and didn't want to let go. He sighed. "We'll talk about it." To Serena, "I'll think about it." Not yes, but not no. The fireworks started at 10, great blooms of color exploding across the winter sky. Serena found Isaiah standing apart from the crowd, Maya asleep in his arms. "She's worn out," he said quietly. "Aria too. She's in the car." Serena moved beside him. "I wanted to apologize again, for the school thing. You offered something generous. I got defensive. I made it sound like charity. Because I'm too proud." He shifted Maya's weight. "My wife always said I'd rather drown than admit I need a lifeguard." A rocket burst into golden sparks. Serena saw the weariness in his face, the weight he carried every day without complaint. "I wasn't lying about Aria being lonely," she said. "Tonight was the first time I've seen her really play in months, because of Maya. Maya doesn't have many friends either. We move around for work. So maybe this isn't charity either direction. Maybe it's two girls who need each other." The finale built, explosions coming faster. "I don't want you thinking I'm buying my way out of guilt," Serena said. "What happened earlier was unforgivable. I already forgave you." "Why?" "Because you were scared for your daughter. I would have done the same." He faced her. "You're not a bad person. You're a scared one. Like the rest of us." The words hit hard. She blinked. Grateful darkness hid her tears. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing me, not just the billionaire or the woman who makes scenes. That's all anyone wants, to be seen." The last firework exploded, white and silver hanging before fading. Serena made a decision. "Have Christmas dinner with us, you and Maya, at my house." Isaiah blinked. "What? No event, no guests, just four people who need each other more than they'll admit." Serena. "Tonight has been the most real thing that's happened to me in a long time. I don't want it to end." He looked at her for a long moment. Maya stirred in his arms, murmuring something in her sleep. "Okay," he said. "We'll come." Serena's smile was like another firework, bright and sudden and beautiful. Christmas Day arrived wrapped in snow and pale sunshine. Serena's Victorian home had been transformed by decorators into a winter wonderland, but she'd asked them to leave the dining room completely alone. That space she decorated herself with Aria, spending the morning cutting out shapes from construction paper. Paper snowflakes hung crookedly from the chandelier. A centerpiece of pine boughs and red berries sat slightly off-center on the table, arranged by Aria's enthusiastic but inexperienced hands. It wasn't perfect by any professional standard. It was infinitely better. Isaiah and Maya arrived at 4. Maya clutched a handmade card she'd spent the morning creating. She had drawn a picture of 4 people, 2 big, 2 small, under a Christmas tree, with careful letters spelling, "Thank you for being our friends," across the top. She thrust it toward Aria, who accepted it with squeals of delight and immediately dragged her upstairs. "They'll be inseparable," Serena observed. "For today at least. Maybe longer." They cooked together, actually together. Isaiah made his grandmother's stuffing while Serena tackled potatoes. They bumped elbows and laughed at their incompetence and produced something edible, if not gourmet. The girls came down wearing matching tinsel crowns they'd made, holding hands like they'd been best friends their entire lives. "This looks yummy," Aria announced. "You haven't tasted it," Isaiah warned. "Doesn't matter. It looks like love." Serena caught Isaiah's eye across the table. He smiled, unguarded and warm, and something in her loosened. After dinner, they moved to the living room where fire crackled and the tree sparkled. Aria presented Isaiah a small box with great ceremony. "I made this because you saved me." Inside was a bracelet woven from thread with beads spelling hero. "I love it," Isaiah said softly. Maya gave Aria a drawing of 2 girls holding hands under a rainbow. "That's us. Best friends forever." Aria clutched it like gold. Serena watched, then spoke quietly. "I've been thinking about what you said, about keeping promises, being there no matter what. I haven't been good at that with Aria. I get caught up in being Serena Vale and forget to just be Aria's mom. You're a good mother. I'm a busy mother, not always the same." She watched firelight on Aria's face. "I want to be better." "Then tell her." "I'm scared." "Do it anyway." Such simple advice, such terrifying advice. But Isaiah said it with such faith that Serena believed it possible. When the girls fell asleep by the fire, Serena and Isaiah sat watching embers glow. "This is nice," Isaiah said. "I'd forgotten what family feels like. Multiple people, chaos, noise." Serena nodded. "I never had this. Even when Julian was alive, Christmas was always catered. Perfect." She smiled. "This is better. Crooked snowflakes and lumpy potatoes." "Love," that's what Aria said. Isaiah turned to face her, firelight painting shadows across his features. "What happens after tonight?" "I don't know, but I'd like to find out." "So would I." It wasn't a promise, just an acknowledgement that whatever started in that amusement park had grown into something worth exploring. Serena took his hand. His fingers were rough, warm, despite winter's chill. They sat as fire burned low, 2 people who found each other in unlikely circumstances, watching their daughters sleep, feeling hope for the first time in years. Outside, snow began falling again. Inside, the tree cast colored shadows across 4 people who started as strangers and were ending as something more. Whatever came next, the challenges, the complications, the bumps in the road, they would face it together. Because sometimes the best gifts aren't planned. Sometimes they find you when you least expect them. A lost child in a crowded park. A moment of chaos that could have ended in disaster but instead opened a door to something beautiful. And the chance to discover that home isn't a place, but a feeling. That family can be built from the most unexpected pieces, assembled not by blood, but by choice, by kindness, by the simple decision to help a stranger in need. Isaiah looked at the sleeping girls with their hands still intertwined, at the remarkable woman beside him, who had gone from accusing him of the worst to inviting him into her home, at the dying fire that had warmed them through an evening of unexpected connection. And he made himself a quiet promise. Whatever this was, wherever it led, he would show up for it completely. The same way he showed up for Maya every single day. The same way he'd shown up for Aria in a crowded park on a winter night that now felt like the beginning of everything. And across the room, still clutching her best friend's hand in sleep, Maya smiled at something in her dreams. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew something important. That Christmas was about finding the people who made you feel safe and holding on to them as tight as you could. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, 4 hearts beat together in warmth, filled with crooked snowflakes, imperfect potatoes, and the unmistakable presence of love.